They were built when chrome was king. V8s ruled the road, and a truck's job was to work, not coddle you with heated seats. 5 decades later, these 10 1970s pickups still command respect from drivers who know what real capability looks like. From the legendary Ford F250 highboy that conquered terrain modern SUVs won't touch, to the Chevy C10 that proved style and substance could coexist under sheet metal, these trucks earned their place in automotive history. While today's pickups chase 0 to 60 times and Wi-Fi connectivity, these analog beasts remind us when trucks were tools first and everything else was just noise. Let's talk about the 10 1970s trucks that refuse to be forgotten and why modern drivers still tip their hats when one rumbles past. Number 10. GMC General. The GMC General was never meant to be flashy, and that's exactly why modern drivers still respect it. Introduced as a true Class 8 highway tractor, the General represented General Motors at its most disciplined. This was GM proving it could build a serious truck, not a lifestyle machine, not a fleet experiment, but a real long-haul workhorse capable of surviving brutal conditions. From the frame up, the GMC General was engineered for stability and longevity. Heavy frame rails, robust crossmembers, and a conservative structural design meant the truck could handle constant high gross weights without twisting or fatigue. This rigidity protected the drivetrain and suspension, reducing long-term wear, something modern drivers immediately recognize as good engineering. Powertrain options were chosen for reliability, not novelty. Drivers valued the General because it didn't chase experimental engines or complicated systems. Manual transmissions were heavy, mechanical, and forgiving. Miss a shift? The truck didn't punish you. Load it heavy? It didn't panic. It just kept pulling. The cab was pure function. Visibility was excellent, controls were simple, and nothing inside felt fragile. There was no insulation trying to hide the road. You felt what the truck was doing. For experienced drivers, that feedback wasn't discomfort, it was control. What earns the GMC General respect today is how honest it was. No gimmicks, no unnecessary complexity. When something failed, it failed mechanically, not mysteriously, and most importantly, it could be fixed. Modern drivers look back at the GMC General and see a truck built before manufacturers tried to protect drivers from the machine. You had to understand it, and if you did, it rewarded you with years, sometimes decades of dependable service. Number 9. International Harvester Transtar. International Harvester didn't come from a car background. It came from farming, construction, and industrial machinery. And that DNA was unmistakable in the Transtar series. These trucks weren't designed to impress drivers, they were designed to outlast them. The Transtar's biggest strength was brute structural integrity. Thick frames resisted flex even under severe loads. Axles were oversized. Drivetrains were deliberately understressed. International engineers understood that trucking wasn't about speed, it was about surviving bad roads, bad fuel, and bad days. Engines were tuned for torque, not excitement. Transtar trucks pulled steadily, predictably, and without drama. Drivers trusted them on hills because they didn't surge or hesitate. They just leaned into the load and kept moving. The cab was basic, noisy, and unapologetic, but gauges were clear. Switches were mechanical. Nothing felt delicate. Drivers didn't need a manual to understand what was happening. The truck communicated directly. What modern drivers respect most about the Transtar is its tolerance for abuse. These trucks survived neglect, overloaded trailers, missed maintenance, and harsh weather better than many competitors. That kind of forgiveness is rare today. The Transtar didn't age gracefully in appearance, but mechanically, many of them refused to die. And that stubborn endurance is why drivers still speak about them with respect, not nostalgia. Number 8. Ford LTL 9000. The Ford LTL 9000 doesn't get the same legendary status as some competitors, but among drivers who ran one hard, it earned serious respect. Ford approached the LTL 9000 with restraint, a rare quality in the 1970s heavy truck market. Rather than pushing radical designs, Ford focused on balance. The ladder frame was strong and conservative. Axles and suspension were chosen for durability. Powertrain combinations were matched carefully, so no component was constantly operating at its limit. This made the LTL 9000 feel stable. At highway speeds with heavy freight, the truck felt planted. Steering response was predictable. Braking systems inspired confidence. Drivers didn't fight the truck, it worked with them. The cab reflected Ford's no-nonsense approach. It wasn't luxurious, but it was functional. Visibility was good, seating was practical, and the layout made sense. You worked inside it, you didn't relax in it. What modern drivers respect about the LTL 9000 is how little drama it created. It didn't have a reputation for catastrophic failures. It didn't suffer from notorious design flaws. It simply did its job, mile after mile. In an era full of experimental engineering, the LTL 9000 proved that discipline often outlasts ambition. Number 7. Mack R series. If toughness had a physical form in the 1970s, it would wear a Mack Bulldog on the hood. The Mack R series wasn't just respected, it was feared by bad roads, heavy loads, and careless operators. Mack engineered the R series to survive punishment. Frames were massively overbuilt, axles were thick, engines were designed to lug heavy freight all day at low RPM without complaint. Mack didn't design trucks for ideal conditions. They designed them for worst-case scenarios. Drivers respected the R series because it didn't feel fragile. You could feel the weight, the strength, the seriousness of the machine. Missed shifts, sudden loads, rough terrain. The truck absorbed it all. The cab was Spartan but solid. Nothing rattled unnecessarily. Controls were heavy and deliberate. You didn't sit in a Mack, you operated it. Even today, modern drivers talk about old Mack trucks with genuine admiration. Not because they were comfortable, but because they were nearly impossible to kill. The R series didn't care about trends. It cared about work, and that's why it's still respected. Number 6. Kenworth W900. The Kenworth W900 is one of the rare trucks that earned respect in the 1970s and never lost it. Even today, modern drivers recognize its shape instantly, not because of nostalgia, but because the core engineering philosophy behind it still makes sense. In the 1970s, the W900 wasn't built to be stylish. Its long hood existed for one reason: to house big, serviceable engines and cooling systems that could survive extreme workloads. Kenworth engineers focused heavily on durability and serviceability. The long hood allowed easy access to the engine, which mattered when breakdowns happened far from help. Drivers could work on their own trucks, diagnose problems, and keep moving. That alone earned enormous respect in an era where downtime meant lost income. The frame design was another major reason for the W900's reputation. Thick rails and solid crossmembers gave the truck excellent resistance to twisting under heavy loads. This protected driveline components and extended the life of everything bolted to the frame. Modern drivers still admire that kind of structural honesty. Behind the wheel, the W900 felt serious. Steering was heavy but predictable. Braking required skill, but it responded consistently. There was no illusion of comfort. You knew you were operating a machine designed to haul weight, not isolate you from it. The cab itself was simple but functional. Visibility was strong, gauges were clear, and nothing felt flimsy. Drivers didn't expect luxury, they expected reliability, and the W900 delivered. What modern drivers respect most is that the W900 didn't age out of relevance. Its design principles were so solid that Kenworth never abandoned them. That's not marketing success, that's engineering success. Number 5. Peterbilt 359. The Peterbilt 359 occupies a special place in trucking history, not because it was easy, but because it demanded respect. In the 1970s, the 359 was known as a driver's truck. It wasn't forgiving, it wasn't gentle, but if you knew how to run it properly, it would reward you with strength, reliability, and pride of ownership. Peterbilt built the 359 with thick frames, carefully assembled components, and a level of build quality that stood apart from many competitors. These trucks felt tight, solid, and deliberate. Doors shut with weight. Controls required intention. Nothing felt disposable. Under the hood, engines were chosen for power and durability. Cooling systems were large and effective, allowing the truck to run hard without overheating. The long hood wasn't decoration, it was function. Drivers respected the 359 because it demanded skill. Missed shifts punished inexperience. Poor maintenance showed up quickly, but experienced drivers loved it because it responded exactly as expected. There was no guessing what the truck was doing. You felt everything. The cab wasn't luxurious, but it was well thought out. Seating position, visibility, and control layout supported long hours of focused driving. Fatigue was real, but so was confidence. Today, modern drivers respect the Peterbilt 359 because it represents pride in workmanship. It wasn't built to be cheap, it was built to be right, and that mindset is increasingly rare. Number 4. Freightliner FLC. Cab-over trucks were brutally practical, and the Freightliner FLC embodied that philosophy perfectly. In the 1970s, length laws forced manufacturers to rethink design, and Freightliner leaned fully into efficiency and accessibility. The FLC's cab-over layout allowed maximum trailer length without sacrificing maneuverability. But what earned respect was how intelligently it was engineered. Freightliner focused on weight reduction without compromising strength. Aluminum construction kept the truck lighter, improving fuel economy and payload capacity. Access to the engine was excellent. Tilting the cab exposed everything, allowing fast repairs and inspections. For drivers and fleet operators alike, this reduced downtime dramatically. The driving experience was raw. You sat over the front axle. You felt every bump, but visibility was outstanding, especially in urban environments. Drivers knew exactly where their truck was at all times. The FLC wasn't comfortable by modern standards, but it was efficient, honest, and effective. Modern drivers respect it because it represents a time when trucks were optimized for work, not marketing appeal. Number 3. White Road Boss. The White Road Boss was not subtle, and it wasn't supposed to be. White Motor Company built trucks like industrial equipment because that's exactly how they viewed them. The Road Boss was big, heavy, and unapologetically serious. Frames were massive. Drivelines were overbuilt. Engines were tuned to pull, not race. The Road Boss didn't feel refined. It felt unstoppable. Drivers respected it because it handled abuse without complaint. Rough roads, heavy loads, long hours, the truck absorbed punishment that would cripple lesser machines. Steering was heavy, braking demanded attention, and nothing about it was easy. The cab was basic but durable. Nothing inside felt temporary. Everything felt like it would survive decades of use. Modern drivers still respect the Road Boss because it represents a time when manufacturers assumed trucks would be abused and built them accordingly. Number 2. Volvo F89. The Volvo F89 was one of those trucks that didn't just earn respect in its own time, it earned future respect. In the 1970s, while many manufacturers were still focused purely on brute strength, Volvo quietly introduced a more disciplined, engineering-driven approach to heavy trucking. And modern drivers recognize immediately just how far ahead of its time the F89 really was. At the heart of the F89 was Volvo's turbocharged diesel engine, a major leap forward in an era when many trucks relied on naturally aspirated power plants. But this wasn't turbocharging for bragging rights. Volvo engineers used it to improve efficiency, torque delivery, and altitude performance while keeping engine stress under control. The result was a truck that pulled confidently without feeling overworked. The chassis design reflected Volvo's obsession with balance. Frame strength, suspension geometry, and drivetrain alignment were carefully engineered to reduce fatigue and wear over long distances. That meant fewer failures, better stability, and a smoother ride, things drivers might not have articulated at the time but definitely felt. Where the F89 truly separated itself was safety and driver-focused design. Volvo paid attention to braking systems, cab structure, and ergonomics long before these became selling points. The cab wasn't luxurious, but it was thoughtfully laid out. Visibility was excellent, controls were logical, and fatigue was reduced wherever possible. Modern drivers respect the F89 because it represents the moment when trucking began to shift from survive at all costs to survive intelligently. It proved that strength and engineering discipline could coexist and that reliability didn't require brutality. The Volvo F89 wasn't loud about its greatness. It simply demonstrated it, mile after mile. Number 1. Kenworth K100. If there is one truck from the 1970s that modern drivers almost universally respect, it's the Kenworth K100. Not because it was easy, not because it was comfortable, but because it represented everything trucking had to be during the toughest era the industry ever faced. The K100 was a cab-over by necessity, but it became legendary by execution. Built to comply with strict length laws, it placed the driver directly over the front axle. No insulation from the road, no illusion of comfort. You felt everything. And that was exactly why drivers respected it. Kenworth engineered the K100 to handle relentless punishment. The frame was strong and rigid. The drivetrain was designed to tolerate constant heavy loads. Cooling systems were oversized. Nothing was built lightly, because nothing could afford to fail. The cab tilted forward, giving full access to the engine. That feature alone earned massive respect. When something went wrong, and in the 1970s things always went wrong, drivers could get to work immediately. No waiting, no guessing. Driving a K100 required skill. Steering demanded attention. Braking required anticipation. Missed shifts were punished. But experienced drivers loved it because the truck never lied. If you did your job right, the K100 did its job flawlessly. Even today, modern drivers look at the K100 and understand something instantly. This truck was built when trucking was unforgiving, when loads were heavy, roads were bad, and help was far away. The Kenworth K100 didn't protect drivers from trucking. It demanded that they rise to it. That's why it isn't just remembered, it's respected. So that's it for today. If you like this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching.